Evening. My name is Silvia Casabianca, and this is my presentation on a compassionate leadership model that I built for a fictitious company called the Kindness Center. I have studied for the former assignments. I first studied Deb Logan, who is the executive director of Blue Zones in the Southwest Florida region. And I concluded after studying the data that she was an authentic leader. Authentic leader is a value-based form of leadership and has a lot of things in common with compassionate leaders, such as, they display empathy, and that's from how the way they relate to others. And for the second assignment, I studied 3 leaders and the way they have dealt with the pandemic. So the first one was United Kingdom Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, and New Zealand's Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, and the Kingdom of Bhutan's Prime Minister Lotai Tshering. Their performance during the pandemic was completely different. Jacinda Ardern and, for example, closed the country completely from the very beginning. And, they had very low numbers of contagion and mortality during the first 2 years of the pandemic. Dr. Tshering had a similar approach to the pandemic, and also, as did Ardern, encouraged people to care for each other and to volunteer to make sure that everybody was good. Mr. Johnson has been criticized because he put the economy first, and he ended up taking measures to contain the pandemic a little late. And the result of that is that he had the highest morbidity and mortality of all European countries. This can be explained if we take the model that Basram and colleagues have developed. They say that there are 2 dimensions to leadership, and one of them they called antisocial, and is characterized by self-focus and aggressive and competitive behaviors. And the result of it is that the followers perceive their behavior as threatening, and is not very conducive to affiliation or association or cooperation. The second dimension described by these authors is the prosocial dimension, that is characterized by more empathetic and caring behavior, which promotes the solidarity that is necessary, especially in times of crisis. This compassionate and authentic leadership model that I have mentioned tend to be prosocial. That's one of the characteristics. They tend to move the people to care for each other. A little bit about the Kindness Center. So the vision is the Kindness Center transforms the local community into a kinder place that allows, promotes, and engages in respectful, heartful, and civil dialogue. The mission is to promote, teach, and practice core values of kindness, compassion, and empathy. And these are values that are necessary to build a resilient, compassionate community. And one of the concerns is that the current leadership model that they have is transformational. And even though this is a value-based form of leadership, it doesn't seem completely aligned with their vision and mission. And that's why they need to work on a new model that I have proposed is compassionate leadership. The main assumption is that we human beings have an innate need and drive to learn. So in order to learn, we instinctively affiliate with others in search for truth and freedom. And these values have to do with the way the brain is wired from the moment that we're born. We're wired for empathy. And in order for this empathy to develop, we need empathetic relationships. Another assumption is that leadership is contextual. So it is influenced by culture. And we can see that especially in a global economy where we need to be inclusive, and diversity shapes many of the things that leadership needs to do. Leadership competencies can be learned and developed. So even if we're born with certain traits that allow us to be good leaders, we need to develop, and we can develop because they can be learned, some competencies that makes us better leaders. Another assumption is that a compassionate leader creates solidarity. It promotes solidarity. It influences the way humans interact, and this helps improve outcomes, especially in the face of difficult circumstances. One more assumption is that the focus of compassionate leadership is the greater good, and that it is globally inclusive. It requires, of course, as it shares this with other leadership forms, a long-term foresight, a good, solid vision. So the proposed leadership model is compassionate leadership. And the first thing that a compassionate leader needs is the courage to stand up when in the presence of injustice, when something needs to be corrected, when somebody is suffering, courage is needed to face these circumstances. And then this leader also requires wisdom that allows them to know what to do and when to do it. A compassionate leader is emotionally intelligent and manifests this intelligence through acts of kindness, through empathic concern, which is a form of relationship with others that is the characteristic of compassion. Of course, we also call it empathic concern. These leaders are also characterized by their capacity for forgiveness, for gratitude, and altruistic acts. The focus of a compassionate leader is the collective well-being, and therefore they have a capacity to foster solidarity, organizational and community cultures, which are the ideal cultures to improve outcomes of any action, even or especially in times of crisis. The compassionate leader has positive relationships with others, and besides empathy, these positive relationships are characterized by capacity to listen actively to others and also being really present. They also have a more democratic understanding of authority and a holistic view of organizations. They are committed to helping members or followers grow. And so they take action to educate and to promote such growth. They also, in times of crisis, in times of conflict, these compassionate leaders are committed to restoring harmony and reducing the levels of stress. So those are the qualities of a compassionate leader as I see it, and my references are here.